coordinating the communication of feedback and local insights to the transportation agencies. And 3, being proactive in identifying and advocating for issues and potential projects that the agencies might not have on their radar, but that we care about and that will make a positive difference in lengths. I have been working in the transportation world since 2006, starting out in an advocacy role around safe routes to school and complete streets, helping communities around the country to personally go out and map conditions in their neighborhoods, develop coordinated coalitions, and engage in effective dialogue with local and regional government. I have undergraduate and graduate degrees in planning, public policy, and management, and landscape architecture from the University of Oregon, and have won national awards for my work related to public participation in transportation. I've worked for nonprofits and city and state government, and currently work for a local consulting firm focused on making our communities safe and enjoyable for all modes of transportation and all ages and abilities. Again, please feel free to get in touch if you would like to chat prior to the elections. Christo Graham, candidate for Transportation Chair of the Neighborhood Association. And to that end, I have his contact information. I mean, I'm not saying it right now, but I have that. If somebody has a question for him that you want to email him or something, we can look you up to talk to him or email for that. Okay, so that is the presentation about Mr. Graham. And that is, as far as I know, thank you, Christo. As far as I can tell, that is who is here that is on the panel. So if anybody has any questions, now is the time to ask your questions. But actually, you know what? I would say let's kind of break it up into like, why don't you grab something to eat, let's like chat, share your dreams, ask your questions.
Or maybe just a group question. Maybe ask if anybody wants to ask them.
Okay, questions first. Anybody have any questions first? Go for it.
So I would like to ask Sabina, since as a chairperson, you're sort of like the team leader, how important do you think communication with your other team members would be, as in, timeliness of replying to emails and including the rest of your teammates in decisions and communications that you might be doing?
I think that's huge. I'm also very prompt with my communications outside of meetings, so I'm always on my phone, checking email, texting, and I would want to get to know them outside of here too, so that we have like a good relationship and we know each other and our style of communication. I feel like in every job that I've had, like in news, it's always teamwork. It's always a covenant of you have to make decisions and then have to change and bring everyone on the same page. And it's uncomfortable, sometimes. And I've also learned that you might not always be liked by everyone, but as long as you feel confident about your decisions, I think that's what matters. But yeah, I think that communication is important and it's huge. And I'm here to learn from them too.
Any other questions at this time? Membership?
I had a question, and maybe both, but probably maybe. A lot of the communications that we've had in recent years have been over the internet or email, but something like 25 to 30% of our residents don't really interact with the phone. And so do you have any ideas on how you're going to be communicating with folks that you can't just kind of
help actually support any kind of mailing to postal-based communication.
What the neighborhood office does is provide each neighborhood association with a slot, and it's up to each neighborhood association to budget how they use those funds. So, a big chunk, I'm the treasurer, and I don't have internet access at home, just to let you know. That a board member that you have doesn't have internet at home, so I have to go to the library. So a lot of times people give me a call, just do it. And if it's something more complicated, they'll give me a call so I know I have to go to the library. So it's up to each neighborhood association to budget those funds, and the bulk of the funds that we've been using have been for the events money, quite frankly, for the electricity to keep the money lit up.
Anybody else?
I was gonna say, I've been working as the board liaison to the Equity and Inclusion Subcommittee that we formed, and we're actually actively as a committee discussing better ways to do outreach to a broader range of folks. So out of that committee work, we're hoping to get some model ideas, because often what people will talk about is going door to door and flyering and sending out postcards, and we've done that many times in the past, and it doesn't seem to produce really good results. But there's also the East Portland neighborhood news that comes out that we can put articles in, and that does get mailed out to households. But I think, and I'm not going to speak for the committee because we're still in the process right now of like more in a discovery phase, but the conversation seems to be moving towards having more community events where people can interact in person, face to face, and that the best way to get information around is to make sure that neighbors are talking to each other. So if one neighbor has internet access and uses the internet frequently and knows the next door neighbor who doesn't, they're more likely to go talk to them and tell them what's going on, instead of just going home, closing the door, and not interacting with their neighbors at all. So that's the kind of the Equity and Inclusion Subcommittee is hoping to foster more of those kind of relationships by using the Lens Neighborhood Association to bring people together.
Even the kids.
I wrote for her.
Mom.
Yeah, so, being in a group like this is I know that.
Can't hear you.
Being in a leadership role for a group like this is akin to herding cats. And I know that. And my experience with the association is very limited. I've lived in Lens for 20 years. And I know that in the few meetings that I have been to, the faces in the room, a lot of the people who are in the neighborhood, their faces are not there, which means that their voices are not being heard. And so, you know, part of the way that this group is really a viable and successful group is when we encourage as many different voices from the neighborhood as possible to be heard. And that also means the ones that are the pain in the ass and you know, are constantly grumpy and you know, and not ever satisfied, but at the same time they're still voices from the neighborhood. And so I'm just kind of wondering if you could speak to healing that rift and getting more of those really important voices into the room so that we can feel as though we're an organization that truly represents the whole neighborhood.
I've been to some city council meetings and some other meetings where we talk with the mayor, and in my experience, a lot of the issues related to people not really understanding where to go to speak about a particular issue. You know, people a lot of times bring certain grievances that are irrelevant to the meeting that we're having, and we're not, you know. So I feel like helping to eliminate some of that confusion, you know, being able to tell people, okay, I understand this issue that you want to talk about is not part of what we're talking about today, but we can create an outlet for you to speak to those things. I think that could help
yeah, going on with that, I think we have, as individual board members and people having private lives outside and different interests, we actually have heard a lot of things from the community and tried where the Lens Neighborhood Association isn't the appropriate venue to try and address some people's issues. We've started other groups and organizations or worked with other organizations to have them come in and work with folks. So you've actually, since I've lived in the neighborhood, we've gotten even more organizations involved in the area that it's not necessarily a Lens Neighborhood Association project, but they have partnered with us at some point in the past. Green Lens is great. Before I was on the Lens Neighborhood Association board, I was one of the founding board members of Green Lens, and that was an organization, when we sat down and created it, it was an organization we created to empower the community to do projects on their own. So it's overkill to go out and form a 501c3 nonprofit to just do a small community project. So it's serving as an organization where those projects can convene, and it serves as the nonprofit for those projects. And from that, you get even bigger projects percolating up. So the Livable Lens projects are under the umbrella of Green Lens. And so there are other outlets, and I think that communicating that and making sure people know that they do have other resources. I work on land use issues, so it's usually very cut and dry what I can communicate to the city and what we can speak to, because it's a very legalistic sort of like property rights things. But I do hear people's other concerns about larger issues like housing affordability and gentrification. And while the Lens Neighborhood Association isn't the organization that's able to convene and solve those problems, we can take that information in our other roles on with us. So if we have folks from the neighborhood that I know through my networking and just knowing my neighbors that I know are involved in housing development and I know are involved in like housing advisory committees of the city, I'll be sure to tell them, I'll pass the message on. Unfortunately, a lot of people want the neighborhood association to do everything for every issue that there is, and I think part of being a good board, a neighborhood association board, is looking at everybody that's on the board, knowing their strengths, and then knowing when to ask for help from other organizations on other issues, and the city on other issues as well. And I think we've tried to do that. Unfortunately, there are some folks that they feel like we should be addressing issues that really aren't in our wheelhouse at this point, and we've tried very, very hard to make them feel empowered, and it doesn't seem like they want to be empowered. They want us to fix things for them, and I don't really like saying that, but it's like I want to, if someone comes to me with an issue like Barbara has air quality concerns, I talk to Barbara, I'm like, you know what, Barbara, you are the expert on this and we are fully behind you, and whatever we can do as an organization to support your efforts, help amplify your message. But Lens Neighborhood Association isn't going to become an air quality management organization for the neighborhood. So, but you know, and then connecting Barbara with groups like Opal or Green Lens that are working on air quality issues so that she can have a more support too from other organizations. So that's just one example. Did you have something to say?
I would like to add on to his comment. I guess if you were the chairperson and there was a meeting where people were getting off topic or things were getting heated, do you think that you would be able to bring it back into focus? What skills you might have to bring it back into focus and keep people on topic?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I would need to learn more about kind of what the procedure is and what the specific terms are that you use for something like that. But I think I'm good at keeping, focused and keeping on track with the schedule and prioritizing and asking for help when I need it. But yeah, I think so.
I don't know if this is all I'm going to ask, but I've avoided the LNA meetings for the last 2.5 years because of the culture and tone of the meetings and hostility. think I really genuinely have some PTSD over some of the experiences I had at meetings with some of the aggressive communication styles and really humiliating our neighborhood with aggressive and hostile tactics towards our city leaders who took the time out of their evenings to communicate with us. So I'm wondering how you might try to engage these polarized sides to try and bring us together and get people to see that everybody has some similarities in what their values are for the community at large, and then focus on those rather than on our differences, because I think that we're just at a point where a lot of people have self-selected out of community involvement because it's so stressful to be present for those events.
So when you talk about the people who are disrupting or who are being disrespectful, do you mean like people on board or just people who come to the meetings?
People who come to the meetings and people who, mostly people who come to the meetings and I'm not really feeling like, I served as a treasurer and I felt it was incredibly traumatic to be on maternity leave and be attacked while I wasn't there, and people attacking me never reached out to me to ask me for any information, whether or not I was doing my job. We didn't have any budget line items, there was no budget to have. So we didn't even have the monuments in our name, it was still in the PDC at the time. So we didn't have anything, but I was accused of nonfeasance, I was verbally abused, I was slandered, and I mean, that's something that a lot of our board members who serve currently have been experiencing by people who just don't agree with them, or think they don't agree with them, but if you are a bystander, you're watching the conversation, you can see similarities in value sets, that it's kind of bizarre to see, like, I just hate this person, so I'm just going to disagree on principles because I hate this person, even though we all want the same thing.
Yeah, so
you know?
it can be like personal issues too. Well, I think, everyone wants to have a voice and to have their voice be heard and to feel validated even when we disagree with each other. So again, just creating more of an avenue for people to express that and then to feel like they're validated and like their opinion matters. I think that's important. I would think it's also really important for board members to really be on the same page with each other, to communicate very well, and to really stand united as a front. I've gone to some city council meetings that also get very, they've had to interrupt them, they've had to just take breaks and kick everyone out, there's security guards, I mean, they get pretty intense, but something I've admired is just how, the mayor and the city council members, they stand like the united front, and they really support each other, and they deal with some verbal abuse and people interrupting, but and I'm sure some of them at times agree with some of the comments that come, and some don't. But really, they stand as a united front, and they just help each other, and they don't let each other get verbally abused or anything like that. It's just not really tolerated. So.
Well, that just hasn't happened. We haven't had leadership, in my experience, that has really championed for their board members in the last year and a half, 2 years, 4 years, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
To be clear, though, a lot of the stuff that was currently that was not at meetings. It also was outside of meetings and got very close. And it's not just that
It's not
happened
just
a lot of
most of the board members. Yeah, I mean, it was humiliating, and in areas, places where board members couldn't defend themselves, it was bizarre. And
you don't have to be a board member. You have to be.
they don't need to, yes. I mean, but it just happens to everybody involved who, maybe a certain faction disagrees with, and I just want to see that healed.
It's pretty natural that people want to figure out who to blame, and unfortunately you guys are sitting at the front table, so you are the guys that are to blame. And so it really takes some skill to kind of navigate through that and tell someone that you can't help them or they're out of order without invalidating them. You know, that takes some real skill.
I think that it's really important. I think what the board has kind of, no offense, but I think that what the board leadership has failed to do is to really kind of give community members context for the level of power that we have.
I think that's true.
And I totally agree. Because we have very little power.
And I will admit to failing on it. I think some people think I have more influence. Well, I mean, they think that as a Lens neighborhood association representative, I have more influence than I do. I have influence in other arenas of my life. I have influence in my job, and I actually, as much as I can, do that ethically and just within my role, you know, just feeling good about what I'm doing and making sure it's the right thing to do. I do leverage all my contacts in my network and my job, but if I were to step away from this role, I would feel really terrible for someone expecting another land use person to have that level of ability to influence decision makers or influence other processes, because they would be starting fresh pretty much. If it was someone I could work with, I would, like I said, I'm mentoring a whole subcommittee of folks that I'm hoping can eventually step into this role. And I think as a board member, that's one of our jobs too, is to constantly be developing other community members and helping them feel empowered and making them feel like they can step into the roles that we have someday. And it's part of, you know, it's why I feel strongly enough to do the equity and inclusion work, because it helps me maintain my networks in the community and develop new ones. But it also, I think, is a way of opening up the meetings to be more welcoming. So some of the other things we're looking at doing are different meeting formats, meeting in different places and different venues, just having different approaches to the way we interact with folks during meetings. Because a lot of it, I think, is the more formal our meetings get and the more sort of like process, ABC, the less people really feel like they're being heard or validated. And so we used to have meeting formats where we actually didn't really vote all that much, because most of our meetings are about just bringing information to the community and bringing presenters. And so we would have these meetings where we do the procedural stuff up front really quick, like approve the minutes and things like that, because there aren't really that many action items that come to the general membership. And then we would have the presenters present what they were going to, their topic areas, briefly, but with no Q&A. And then we would adjourn the meeting and have a full 45 minutes to an hour for folks to go around to all the presenters and ask their individual questions, and interact with them more meaningfully one-on-one and get a little more in-depth follow-up to their specific issues. And then also, but it also allowed the community to come together, where if you didn't have any questions to present, or you got your one question answered, you didn't really need to worry about the others to sit and chat. And you even see that now, people want to be interacting with each other, even after a 2-hour meeting that really, you know, it's been really long and procedural, and like, why are we going through all of this? They'll go out in the parking lot and they'll talk for like 45 minutes to an hour afterwards, just standing in the parking lot. So that's more the atmosphere I'm wanting to move us back towards. And I'm hoping that as a new board forms, I mean, we'll still have, we've actually as a board been working really well together. For the most part, it's kind of behind the scenes and people don't necessarily see it. And we've developed really good relationships and gotten to know each other. But, you know, we're bringing 6 new people on, and I'm hoping that as the new composition forms, that we'll continue to move ahead and address those issues.
How many people are on the board now, and how many people are remaining to go forward in terms of the transition?
Right now we have, I believe we have, let's see, 8 members on the board. And for this election, it is the chair is up for election, land use is up for election, transportation, which is currently an empty, there is nobody in that seat at the moment. Transportation, and then at large, there's 3 open positions for at large right now that are up for election. And
one is a 1-year term. That's
one of the at large is filling half of a term. So even though it's election, it's a one-year term. So but we're trying to get the board up to 13. That's the goal.
Okay, so 6 people will be elected, and there's 7 now that are currently on the board that are staying.
That are halfway through their term.
Okay, so it's about half.
What other kinds of, missions would you like to see in at-large positions on the board to bring in the team?
What would I like? I mean, it's,
Any of them. Like, what else would be useful on the board for at-large positions?
we've got, there's all kinds of issues that could be, pick your issue, legislation. There's going to be a push this winter for the February legislative session to work with, hopefully collaborate with the city. Mayor Wheeler's office going forward to get the ODOT, their law, the laws that they have to abide by regarding trespass on their property, for instance, which has been a problem in our neighborhood. This has to be addressed via legislation. It can't be, they can't just do it as an administrative alteration of their, the way that they do business. It has to be done, I think it's.
So maybe a legislative.
Right, or a legislative committee. I mean, active, that there, so there's a lot, that's one thing, but there's, pick a topic.
So
I usually
do you guys find any use in strategic planning for what the board would focus on for a year? Or for a 6-month period of time?
I would hope that's what our October board meeting would be about. So as soon as everyone's elected, the very next board meeting we have is sitting down and figuring out what we're gonna do.
We haven't been able to get to those issues lately.
I know.
What I would say is that we've been kind of stymied by, without going into any of the details, just stymied by certain situations that the board was presented with, will say that prevented us from functioning cohesively. And the goal is to move forward and be a cohesive body, because obviously you can't get anything done when you're not working together and communicating together. You can't function.
So I know that you run strategic planning.
We have adaptive strategies now. That's the new big thing. But yes, I know.
Do you have?
I just wanted to mention that at a very minimum, we will be adopting a budget in October. We're required to do that every year, and I insist on it as director. So that's the very minimum that we will be doing, is adopting a budget for that very few, not very much money that we get from the East Portland neighborhood office. But it would be great to actually have a little bit more, planning for what we're going to be doing over the next year and who's going to do it. And because that's always the thing is, when you were mentioning at-large positions, generally, the general membership votes for the at-large positions, and people have what they want to do, and they bring that to the general membership and say, okay, vote for me, I will work on this. And so it's not necessarily up to the rest of the board to determine, we'll ask folks to do things, but we're all volunteers, so.
Right, but it would be nice to see the board actually be cohesive and look at objectives and say, these are the issues that we would really like to focus on. As a community, that we're hearing from you, who wants to focus on some of these, because if you don't actually set the expectation, people won't necessarily know what to volunteer for.
And actually, when I was last chair, way back in the early 1990s, that's what we did every year. We had an annual planning meeting where we put together our annual plan, which of course events would just kind of, you still have to deal with events.
I chair 2 boards and I do it quarterly. So.
Yeah, and I would say that, kind of echoing when I encourage people to run for at-large positions, I usually ask them, I say, your interest areas and things you're already working on seem to be aligning with what people in the neighborhood are asking for more help on. Would you like an at-large position on the board? That way you can leverage the Lens Neighborhood Association resources to do more of what you're doing. So I'm trying to get Barbara to run for at-large to work on air quality issues. So that's an example.
I'm
But
still thinking about it.
I would think also, since we don't know who's all going to be on the board by October, it's hard to predict exactly, but like, I can say pretty definitively that we'll have to continue to address the mobility issues in the neighborhood moving forward. But we have an at-large person that's focused on that and chairing that committee and bringing other board members and community members in to work on those issues. I would like to see us build on things we've done successfully over the last year. So the town hall that we had in April was a really impactful event, and the livability committee organized that, which is chaired by Jennifer Young, who's one of our at-large folks. And they actually wanted to do 4 town halls, but because of all the other noise in the neighborhood, were pulled away from being able to organize those. And so I would hope that next year they would be able to realize that goal of having 4 full town halls. So that's something we figure out the best path. We don't say it has to be absolutely this way at meetings, but what's the best path forward? How can the neighborhood association best facilitate that in our October meeting?
Oh, I'd just like to say, Rebecca, as a board member, I'd love to have that happen.
Oh, to have that kind of structure? Yeah, I just,
It's in the back.
Yeah. With all due respect, it was unorthodox how you guys were attacked last week, or last meeting. That was out of control. Handle it the best you could. But the reality was, there was a hand raised. What are you going to do as board members to bring this community together? Because when it was raised, reality is reality. There was about 6, 8 that were happy with the board. You were far outnumbered by the hands that went up that were unhappy with the board. And I myself am very unhappy with the board, because what you were saying about the board members, I was recipient of that amongst the board members, and I have copies of them. They were emailed to me because I made a comment when our city was here. And we're not going to address this. I'm just giving an example. I don't want answers to this. But I made a comment to the mayor about how our hands are tied and so forth. And in general, I said, you're going to have to do something, because it's getting to where it's going to be, where we're going to have to arm ourselves with bats and take matters into our own hands. It was an example. It was an expression. Turn around, and I know the board members know that there was emails that went out, and it was requested to review the minutes on what I said. Because I did not say I was going to go out and be a vigilante. I said that's the road we're taking if things don't change. But yet,
Remember that.
But yet, board members sent out emails about me. I've got copies of them, and I am offended.
Who did they send emails to?
Amongst each other.
In other words, they were discussing what happened.
The accusations that I was going to be a vigilante. It was taken out of context. The mayor didn't take it out of context. In fact, the mayor talked to me afterwards.
Wait, you're saying that they were discussing the accusations made to you.
No, they were accusing me of being a vigilante when I was making an example of things don't change. That's the road we're heading down. They were portraying like I'm going to go out with a bat and start cleaning the house with the homeless. That's not what it is. I was making an example of the mayor. The point is there's things like that are going on. How are you going to bring this community together? Because there was literally, you were outnumbered over 2-1 at the last meeting. So I want to know how
Part of that is the attrition of people that previously used to attend meetings that have been pushed out by the environment that was created by the people that raised their hands. I honestly have to say. Truthfully. So it wasn't really a fair representation of the community. But secondly, the things that they were attempting at that meeting were actually in violation of nonprofit law, not only our bylaws, but nonprofit law in general.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in general. Even if a few left, I can tell you, you were still way outnumbered. So I'm asking, how are you going to bring the community together? To where people are feeling, as one. Because as long as we're not as one, these meetings aren't going to get any better.
Well, I think we're making strong efforts to bring the community together. It's a two-way street. So it's, at this point, we've tried very hard for the last 2 years to bring. We put out I like to say we're handing out all the branches. We're handing we're being inclusive, we're bringing people in, and they're lighting the olive branches on fire. So it's a very difficult situation. And I apologize that you felt, I actually empathize with your situation. I know where you live. I understand there's issues with the pickles parking, there's issues with the 205 path. We're working behind the scenes constantly on those issues. When we discuss a comment like that at the meeting, what we're answering to are people coming to us after the meeting and said, that comment made me really uncomfortable and it makes me feel like there's going to be vigilantism in the neighborhood. And we have to discuss it amongst ourselves, and we have to worry. It comes back on the board, actually. When you make comments like that, it reflects on us because people expect us to say things like we're disavowing vigilantism because people are afraid of that bubbling up in the community, even if it's a year or two from now. So it's...
But instead of addressing it how it was contacted, because I talked to the mayor afterwards. I in turn called him, went down to his office, and said, did you take that way? He said, absolutely not. I understand. Because he was afraid for the 2 days that they were protesting at his house.
But the community, there are people
So you're
in
going
the
to have
community
email
that
and
actually
slander.
made them fearful during the meeting, and so we had to discuss it because that's part of what keeps people from coming to meetings.
Fair enough, but that's not how the,
Yeah.
I can bring them, I'll bring copies of them, because that's not how it was discussed amongst a lot of people.
Well, I saw the conversation, but I wasn't involved in it, but I also can understand how other community members would take that comment and interpret it as something more action-oriented, immediate, or a trend that they don't want to see escalate. So
I think,
I mean, call on yourself. That's okay. We're small enough that you can call on yourself.
I think we all, there's a whole lot of us, and I think there's a lot of very sensitive people who are involved in the association or in terms of trying to turn it upside down. And there's people who have pasts and histories that you don't know about. None of us, I don't know anything about you guys' past. But I know that you've all got sensitive places. And for a lot of people, it's about some kind of feeling like afraid of, I'm just making this up, okay, not pointing at anybody. Afraid of men in their past who speak in a particularly loud way or in a very down-to-earth way, whatever. They feel threatened. And then they start going to the board and saying, I felt threatened. Now, I know everybody's got their should, right? So we all have to learn to deal with it out in public somehow. But I think that a lot of that is behind some of these issues with people feeling threatened. Then it goes to the board, and then they're having a conversation about that. Now, I don't know what this conversation is, but
I'll bring it, because it was derogatory.
well, what I would say is, you're getting copies of something that before the internet, people would be having a phone conversation or a private conversation, not something that someone can link to you and then print and hold up as evidence of racism or whatever. Yes, and they can be edited. They're taken out of context. I mean, this has been happening a lot, and if there. You can't have a board of any kind if they don't communicate among themselves. They should be able to, if you want anything to happen. And then you pick out the things that you can, not you, I mean just the big you, and you pick out the things that can be spun, I guess, basically, or used in a different context, or used partially to make someone look like crap.
With all due respect.
But wait, I have one more thing. This is kind of, then I would also just say about what you said about there were more people at the last meeting against them than for them. I would say that doesn't matter. At one meeting where a group decided to come in and take an action, they brought people with them. They brought in people to support them, and nobody else was aware of this. So to say that that represents the LNA membership is false.
Okay, now, with all due respect, in rebuttal to you, When she just made the same exact comment about emails and stuff, everybody was sympathetic. But yet I say stuff that, it could have been altered, it could have been edited. Boy, it's amazing how that works.
I'm not sure.
She just sat right here and said how she was a victim when she was on the board, and emails and stuff that were slandering, and everybody in here was sympathetic to this board member. Nobody said anything about anything being edited. Nobody said anything about blown out of context. Nobody said, take a portion. When she said it, because she gets due respect, because somebody who's a squeaky wheel, we just turn around and I've already just heard edited and take pieces. That is absolutely rude.
Could I respond to what you said as a board member? Because I would actually really like to talk to you about that. So, I hear what you're saying, and I don't recall exactly what was specifically went back and forth. I know there was emails about that. I don't remember exactly who said what. I am personally someone who is, and I don't know your situation. I've been told you're in a very difficult situation by other people. I don't know your situation. I don't know you. I am someone who, when people start talking about guns and shooting, like that I get scared. That frightens me, and I don't know that I necessarily took it as you were saying you were going to go do this, but there were community members who brought up like, wow, that was really scary, someone said this. And so I think that there are different, one of the strengths of the board is to have different people with different sensibilities. So sometimes there's a person who is particularly sensitive to racial issues, or particularly sensitive to police issues, or particularly sensitive to whatever. And so that's why we have the internal board communication and talk back and forth, because like Barbara said, it would be what back in the old days, we would be having a conversation on the phone or in a room, trying to have everyone express their feelings so that we can come together and just let me finish, to come together to find, so how do we handle this? So everyone has these different sensitivities, different feelings. How do we handle this as a group? So what goes on internally in board communication, I don't know whether any of that was related to anyone outside of the board. I don't recall or remember, but you have to keep in mind that that is not necessarily what is going to end up being shared with anyone else outside of the board.
Irrelevant of what was said amongst the board. Now I'm extremely offended that this woman brought together her emails and how she was attacked. And people go, oh yeah. But when I said it, because I'm a squeaky wheel, everybody knows who I am. I'm a squeaky wheel. I'm not afraid to stand up and talk. I pay my taxes.
I see you, I don't know.
The point is, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
The point is I made my comment, and I said, it was out of control. I'm not condoning the action in the last meeting. I sat there with my hand up, and it was out of order. But my point is, she made the same scenario about the attacks on the board, but yet I make the scenario about the board attacking me, and I get, edited. Oh, we can take that context. But not once was that said. Well, what if hers was edited? So what if hers was taken out of context?
Okay, can I say something here? I want to get this conversation going back, and I think we're talking apples and oranges here. I'm hearing two different things going on. One, what was being said over here, this was a person who was on the board that was being attacked publicly, either in person, things being sent to them directly, emails or other things, or on social media, personal attacks against that individual in public. And what happened to you, I'm not saying, I was not part of those, that wasn't around me, so I can't speak to it directly, but what I hear you saying is that people that were on the board or are on the board had emails between each other, and somebody on the board leaked those emails to you, and you saw comments that referred to you made by board members. Am I correct? That's how it transpired. It was not that somebody posted something on Facebook, for instance, and said on the Lens Neighborhood Association page, said, Eric did blah blah blah, isn't he a blah blah blah? It wasn't like that, or they're posting that around, or they're sending you things directly, emails saying, hey, Eric, I think you're a blah, 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 get the heck out of Lentz, or that's not happening, right? That was,
supposed to, but what I'm
I'm just saying it was different. What she was talking about, the attack that was, she was attacked. You
I
were
was attacked by what's supposed to be a
You were
representative.
not attacked, you were discussed.
No, I wasn't. I'll bring the emails.
Did someone email you directly?
If it's talked amongst them, how am I supposed to be welcome in here if you saw it was
I'm
me?
just saying, did someone directly come up to you and say, Eric, this is what I think of you?
No, people came up to me saying this is what we're hearing, because it didn't go
Okay,
to
well,
this
that's a
one
different
person.
matter than having someone be
Because that's
directly
public.
attacked. I'm not saying that it was maybe handled the best way in your situation, but I think they're separate. They're not the same. It's apples and oranges. They're not the same situation.
The bottom line, the question that it all came down to, and the only reason I went after her is because people started attacking what I said, and was how are they going to make the people feel welcome when there's stuff like that going on?
Well, I would say this about it. I would say this, is that as you all know right now, the person that is our current chair has had her responsibilities removed from her. And part of the problem, why that happened, was the thing that you are talking about. It's called no leadership. It's called no leadership. It's called the Lord of the Flies methodology of running a neighborhood association. And that is letting the membership chew on the board and chew on each other until you see what bones are left. And that is a really bad way to run an organization. And consequently, this is what we have. We have people chewing on people here, there, and everywhere. It is up to the chair to say, that is out of order. I'm not allowing that. You're out of here. And the chair that we have has not run her meetings that way. She has not been available to us as a communicator. She has leaked things, and we know this. So I'm just saying to you, what you dealt with was a very dysfunctional board, okay? And as a person that came on the board right at that time, so the attempt right now, we have a candidate, there are other candidates, but they chose not to be here tonight for the chair. We have a candidate before you that has presented herself quite well, I would say. And as far as I can see, her skill set is such that if she does become the chair of our neighborhood association, if we choose to elect her, we are going to do ourselves a big favor and move this organization forward so that you feel included. I feel included. Because here, I'm on the board. I've lived in Lentz for 25 years. And I've never been so attacked as I have in the last 6 months by people. I mean, the kinds of things that people that are spewing is just, you're going, are you kidding? Fabrications. It's like just making stuff up. And if you say it, and that, it's called gaslighting, you know, if you say something enough, maybe someone will believe that it's true. Well, that's what we've got going on in our neighborhood. For some reason, that group chose not to show up tonight. I don't know why. They were just as welcome as you and me. They chose not to. Some of them are even candidates. They chose not to come. That was their choice. So this is who we have who chose to come and stand up before you and present themselves and say, I'm here, I'm a candidate. What can I do?
Extremely stressed, and I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, and this type of abuse that I've been under for the last year and a half has had really bad effects on my health, and has been actually pretty acute in the last couple of weeks. But I still came here because that's how much I care about this organization and how much I care about this community. And I came here thinking those people were going to be in the room. And you know, I think it needs to be. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you continue to show up to meetings. But also,
I appreciate that, and I appreciate that even though you're angry, you're saying what you're saying
and I was
in a decent manner.
What we want to communicate to you is sometimes the way you communicate at our meetings makes other people feel unwelcome, and we want to hear from you. But it would be nice if we could hear from you in a way that doesn't make other people at the meetings feel uncomfortable. If you could.
Now you're asking me to be somebody I'm not, and that I won't do. I am very outspoken. I sat there with my hand in the air.
And then you're also asking other people not to be offended by you, and that's asking them to be.
No, I'm talking about being blown out of context.
They're sensitive people, and you're asking them to be not sensitive.
Well, I just
So what you're asking is I can't speak bluntly.
No, what I'd like to say is, I'd love to talk to you after the meeting and talk to you one-on-one if you're interested. Because I don't know you and I've never met you personally, so I'd love to talk to you one-on-one after the meeting as a board member if you're interested.
Great. We're going to go right up to the top. Okay, ready?
Okay,
All right.
uh,
What is the?
I would like to get this back to being a candidate forum.
Yes.
I realize that I'm the candidate firefighter.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next month will mark the 30th year since I attended my first neighborhood association. In that time, I've been on the board and off the board and all sorts of different capacities. In the early years, before all of the internet was any kind of significant presence, all of the discussions that the board had was always in public meetings, and not off on the side. There would be a few one-on-one discussions via telephone. And in fact, the standards for neighborhood associations encourages that. In fact, it requires that a quorum cannot discuss something outside of a public meeting. So I'm asking the two of you, are you ready to enforce that on our board, that we have our discussions in meetings and not in between meetings? Because there was even one case where basically a decision was made by email and Facebook, and there was just a rubber stamp meeting to rubber stamp the decision, something that I didn't agree with. So I'm asking for your comments, because that is what the standards for neighborhood associations are. We have our discussions at meetings.
Well, I think that if that's the standard, that's how it should be done. I also think it's important for board members to really get to know each other, you know, and to speak about things they have in common, speak about things they have different. So I think it could benefit the board and the association at large if board members had a relationship and outside of these meetings. But I think it could be strictly enforced that, you know, when they do hang out or when, you know, that there are certain things that we don't talk about and we call each other out if that happens, since that's something that's important to our community members.
And I will say the amount of things we have to organize, if we were limited to only doing the work towards those based on action items that occurred in public meetings, we'd have to be having a meeting every other day. So, I mean, there's a happy medium there, and all of our email communication where we discuss towards an issue that's discussed about an issue is usually actually, should we even bring this as an action item in the first place? And that's what the discussion is. And then it's like, okay, this needs to be on an agenda, and then we stop talking about it. But that's the kind of discussion that happens via the email. It's just like, is this something we need to vote on? Like, well, you know, okay, and then we discuss that. But most of the stuff that we actually discuss via email is like, who called to get the meeting space? Who, you know, all of this. It's very sort of process, organizational type stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the subcommittees where it's just we're just updating each other on things that happen in other meetings that, you know, we report out on at the meetings, but sometimes it's like, hey, we talked about this at the meeting, and it needs to happen before we meet the next time, so it's not follow up on it. So, like I said, I think there in this day and age where the amount of outcomes we're supposed to produce is based on what we're able to do with the tools of internet communication, not on what we're able to do meeting twice a month, that we have to find a balance there.
But I do hear what you're saying about like not making decisions. I mean, that might be the happy medium, you know, where maybe they discuss logistics, but they don't make decisions. They don't, you know, form kind of like really strong opinions where it seems to the other board members like, oh, you guys have already made up your mind about this, so why are we here, you know?
Greg, do you have any suggestions on how to deal with it?
Well, as someone who only looks at his email once, maybe a week at most, you know, I feel outside of all of that for the most part. Facebook. So basically, my input is that
But we've also had a lot of complaints that our meetings run too long, so I feel like it's almost necessary to do the legwork ahead of time so that we're not having a 5-hour board meeting.
And I do think in cases where it's like, oh, we need to change the board meeting date because it's looking like we're not gonna have a quorum.
Yeah.
We've made efforts to communicate and not actually make that decision to change the meeting date until we heard back from you.
Britta was, can I put an order of that, sorry.
Okay.
Britta,
Okay.
you had something you wanted to say, I'm sorry.
It was in regards to,
Eric.
yeah. So what I found most helpful, I think that. Can you speak up, please? So what I found most helpful in dealing with issues, because I think a lot of the community members have had similar issues to you, even if they're not the same, and so have the board members. If it's someone on the board, maybe contacting the board and being really, really direct, but in a polite manner, just letting them know, hey, I don't appreciate this being said about me to other people, you know, just letting them know that what your boundaries are as far as what you will allow people to treat you like. And the same thing kind of goes for if it's directed from another community member at you. I found that with the instances I've had of people harassing me, I actually had someone show up at my work that ended up being on the board. And basically what I did is I let that person and their friends know that I would not tolerate that situation and that it had been reported to the police, and then she stopped. So for me, that's what worked.
It wasn't police, it wasn't to that extent. The point was I felt ganged up on, and so when I came in, I came in with attitude. I admit it. I came in with attitude, because they already had an already set example of me. So, you know, turnabout fair play, and I'm asking how they're gonna overcome that. But, you know, fair enough.
We're gonna have to go on the board.
Yeah.
You're gonna accept your nomination, you're gonna run for that at-large position that you were nominated for.
Yeah.
Yes, you're gonna accept the nomination.
What's your last name?
That's the way to deal with it.
I'm nominating him.
Well, he's been nominated, it's just a matter of whether he is, but now there's 2 nominations for you, Britta nominated you.
Yeah, you have 2.
So, you know, you gotta really consider this now, okay?
I think that's a great
I mean, he didn't know, in Eric's defense, he did not realize that he had been nominated at approximately 3 o'clock this afternoon. He had an email. So, when that's why I didn't say, hey, you gotta get up, because he's like, deer in the headlights, I didn't know that I was supposed to even, I mean, he hadn't even considered it. So, to your credit, I think you're winging it right now pretty good about whether, you know, kind of rolling around, but we really, really seriously
The best way
encourage you to consider this and run for the position.
But I will say, if you do,
Do it, dude.
what? You do have to
They
learn
wouldn't
how
like me
to.
on board.
Yeah, okay, now, Tom.
So-
Eric, that's fair enough. Oh, okay. Yeah, the restaurant, maybe that's not, it's like way the heck over there, it's like a half-hour journey.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
now-
good.
So I was at the meeting in question, and although my language was strong, I didn't necessarily take it the way perhaps other people took it. And so I see this as a communication problem. What I wanted to do, and I didn't because I didn't necessarily know that it was appropriate, but what I wanted to do was say to you, what I heard you say was this.
Yeah.
Is that really what you meant?
Thank you.
Because that's what I heard. To give you the opportunity to go, well, no, that's not exactly what I meant, but I'm really pissed off, or I'm really frustrated, or whatever, and that's how it came out.
The problem is when you see what, I don't bring them, I'll put people on blast, I don't care. You know, the problem is after you've been attacked and accused, I was literally so passionate about, and it was perfect setting. And like I said, this meeting isn't about this, but I'm gonna answer your question. We have the mayor here, we got the kingpin, ironically kingpin for here. Well, when I got him here, and he had just literally, because we're all passionate about making our neighborhood better, and I'm not anti-homeless, trust me. You're looking at somebody left in there at 14 years old. I made my money by running errands on the streets of downtown Portland for the people who built the light rail. I've been there. But I'm having a problem with the needles and the children. And my kids are grown. I'm worried more about the children I'm seeing walking. So when the mayor had it was perfect said on the news that he was scared for his family's life because we had some protesters out front of his house for 2 days. The point is, we live that every day. And they couldn't give me the answers. And then I caught some disagreements, or I caught some things that were said by other council members who aren't good, that I prefer were wrong. And I looked at the mayor and said, it feels like we're getting to a point where it's going to be vigilante.
So
To determine. Now, the point is, when it goes amongst the board and you're already profiled, you come in with already a chip on your shoulder.
that's understandable. It is. Can I expand on what you? I've been with. I've done a lot of group facilitation in mental health, and it's with postpartum depression and anxiety. It's parent groups, peer support groups, but a lot of there are always situations in group settings where you have to diffuse triggering situations for one person with trauma or another. And one parent might trigger another parent's trauma or create a situation where they have intrusive thoughts or whatever it might be. So from a mental health perspective, I agree with you, and I think that what the board is lacking, and I wanted to say this earlier, is that we lack somebody with the time and the bandwidth during a meeting who's dedicated to facilitating that conversation. I don't think it should be a board member. I don't think it should be anybody else that's sitting in the room who's invested. I think it should be a bipartisan, a nonpartisan, somebody not necessarily invested. And I think that that would diffuse a lot of the situations and validate a lot of feelings, and it wouldn't feel patronizing coming from the opposite side. So if you're looking for something like that, I think we could find that.
And I think that's interesting. I think that living in this neighborhood, I agree with a lot of things you say. Living in this neighborhood, we're all freaking traumatized. We go through I find needles in my yard too. I worry about the kids. I think we're all kind of most of us are on the same book. That's why it's so weird that there's so much infighting, because we kind of all agree on the same basic stuff, but we're so traumatized that it becomes infighting.
And the thing is when, and Eric, I know you, and I've been in many meetings with you, and I've heard you actually, it wasn't just the one time, you've expressed yourself in that way many times. And I think what we're asking for is, we're asking for your help, because when you speak in that way at a meeting, we hear back from 5, 6, 7, 8 other people that were triggered by that, and it reflects on the board. So the way you speak actually reflects on the board, because they expect us to do something about it, and we have to be like, well, we're just listening to people, and we can't control what the general membership says, but they expect us to.
But I think that goes back to being in a leadership role and just actually having to say, this is our role as a board, a nonprofit, a neighborhood association board. This is what we have power to do. This is what we don't. And we just don't take it personally because we're in leadership.
But as much help as we can get from the general membership.
But we can't ask anyone who is directly impacted. We cannot be empathetic and compassionate with people who are angry and feeling disenfranchised. So I think it's just as important for us to tell the people who've been victimized by listening to someone express themselves emphatically and directly. It's important for us to, as in leadership, to say to those people, this is how this person communicates. He doesn't mean anything by it. He's not violent. And it makes you uncomfortable. Take it up with him.
And I have had those exact conversations with people, but it's not something that's like I don't do it in front of people at the board meeting, so people don't know that happens.
Okay, well then people need to get the leaders in common sense, because I get offended when I hear these people who are sympathetic to these people that are destroying my neighborhood. So, but I don't go around to you, you guys aren't doing emails. That's why you're saying people are offended by the way I talk. Well, I'm offended by the way they talk and defend me. You know, I work hard and I pay my taxes, but I'm not going up to you. So, you know, this is coming to one side of the street here. I'm hearing they're offended by the way I talk, but yet I know there's a lot of us offended about what's going on in our neighborhood. But we're not blaming, I'm not blaming you. You've never heard me blame you.
We actually get comments by people that are offended, by people that are strong advocates on the other side of the issue. We actually do hear that too, but they're conversations that don't happen in the meetings. So
I challenge you to bring an email forum that you guys went through that was derogatory towards those people. I challenge you. Bring it up.
I can find multiple.
That was what? Like, that was what?
Between each other.
That was derogatory about what?
Towards the person who was empathetic towards them. I mean, I'm getting them. I mean, we'll fire them right back.
We get comments all the time about homelessness.
Comments. There's a difference between comments and a full discussion. Look at the emails.
Well, you know, this is one other thing about this topic. This topic has been a heated topic in our neighborhood for some time now. And people are on high alert. And they're triggered, they're tired. And so people's ears are tuned for all the words. And so if someone does hear something that says, I mean, I am, in some ways I feel the same as you, that if we had not been trying to do something about this, which I think our neighborhood has done, and I think that we have done action that is diffusing the potential for vigilante action. But I, like you, Eric, saw that as a potential future, that people were feeling so desperate, that was what they would resort to if they felt they had no other options. I think that what's happened in our neighborhood, not talking about the emails, but just about the issue itself, that we have, as a neighborhood, the neighborhood is coming together around those issues. We got the city's attention, and granted, we're not out of the woods yet, but we are a whole lot further down the road than we were a year ago.
With all due respect, and I will give you the officer's name. This is the reality of what we live in, and that's why if people are offended by what I say and how I'm portraying it, I'll give you the officer's name. I promise you. And you call him and ask him what he told me. Our neighborhood, and I have brood members that I've already defending my home on, still to this day. Because I asked him to get out of a neighbor's yard. That's all I did. And the officer literally, and this isn't scary, but he said, I'd sit behind my door and I wouldn't stop until the clip was empty. He said, when I show up, I only want to hear one side of the story.
Well,
the reality
I would say the police would, they might say, yes, that officer said that to you, but that would go against every policy that the police force would have. So I don't think that's going to.
I'll give you his name. But my point is, it's not scary, but that's what they're afraid of.
Sabina has declared here.
Yeah, so Eric, I want to say that I hear you, and I hear, the frustration and disappointment behind the apparent anger with which you express yourself. And going back to, the original issue, it also came from, like the way you express yourself and what you said. It also came just from frustration, but also from caring about our neighborhood, from saying like, it's getting to that point, as in, you're asking for help, you're asking for, so I get that. I also hear everyone else and their concerns about what they hear when someone says those words, and I believe it was a miscommunication. And now, in the interest of being focused on a solution, we could clarify that at the next meeting. We could either give you a chance to speak, or we could say on your behalf, so that you don't feel like you are someone who's portrayed in a bad light or alienated just because of the way you express yourself. So we could just try to clarify that, and we could even hear from you directly. But there are multiple sides to every story, so you might have to also be willing to accept, because we've all also expressed that there was no harm meant towards you, and that you are a valued member, and we see your commitment by coming to the meeting. So we are also clarifying, that it wasn't anything, bad towards you. So if you're willing to accept that, then everyone else might be willing to accept that. It was just a way of expressing yourself.
But yet even tonight, I was told by the way I talk,
Yeah.
people are going to be offended. So what I'm being told is more or less, show up, no problem.
Hold on. No one's saying that you were. Hold on a second, that's not fair, because here's the thing. I'm a direct and apparently abrasive and, forgive my language, a beat communicator, and I'm intimidating and I scare people, and especially when I'm, really passionate about a topic. And I will just preface it and I'll say, look, people don't like the way I deliver my message, but this is how I deliver it. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but this is the only way I can communicate. And I preface it with that, and it diffuses any preconceived notions about who I am and what I am. And that's just a communication style thing that I've had to develop because I've been fired for being so awful and so scary. I have. I've lost jobs over it because I'm so scary. I know it all. I just wanted to say that this is not the only time someone at a meeting has been frightened by what someone has said. And in some of those instances that I'm aware of, I personally felt like it rolling my eyes at the feeling that way. I mean, to me, it seems obvious that it's a way of speaking and it's not someone saying, I'm going to kill you or whatever. So, but I've talked to some people and I heard some stories about why some people feel certain ways. And even though I still feel like it's a two-way street, and it's also knowing that certain people are not going to hurt them. And I understand they feel uncomfortable. And I think the word is uncomfortable. I don't think the word is offending. I think the word is that it scares them a little. Now I'm sure you've heard
Or maybe they are offended and that's their right to be offended.
Well, but I don't think that's the right word.
And I also think things get lumped together because maybe he said something, because you made a comment and then someone else yelled out something similar and someone else was yelling about something else, and then it sort of gets lumped together where it's like, oh my God, this meeting is like filled with me because I really feel like the word being
My point is that I think people are nervous on both sides, to hear certain things spoken a certain way. But I think it's also the responsibility if they're out in public at a public meeting to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't mean just eat it. It's just like, hey, don't kill her or whatever. But to deal with it in a way that we can devise that might be better, as opposed to just everybody constantly then running to the board and saying, I was scared.
I think what I'm trying to express is we want both voices. So we want to hear from Eric, but we don't want the way Eric speaks to keep other people from coming to the meeting because they're feeling comfortable being heard. So the way to moderate that is to get the people that feel uncomfortable around Eric to get to know him better. But in order for that to happen, Eric might need to tone himself down a little bit for a little while, long enough for them to get to know him.
The other setup for the meetings might facilitate that too. One last comment, and then we're gonna close this gathering. If people want to chitty chatty more, and nobody hardly ate, and there is so much good food over there. Please eat. Ray, please. What is your comment?
Some of these issues have to do with how the meeting is being facilitated. So, for example, when someone expresses themselves in a heartfelt way that may offend or make other people uncomfortable, it's really up to the facilitator to try to restate it. Say, I am hearing you say this in a much more calm sort of way. That way the comment is brought forth, and then the facilitator then tries to bring it into a
make sure that some of the comments are received the way they were intended. And I think that makes perfect sense because we can avoid a lot of, future issues, and we can solve conflict more on the spot rather than keep perpetuating it in emails and future meetings and all that.
Yeah, and it's not about making him see things differently than it's not about that at all. It's about being able to facilitate between his style and the style of people who are hearing it.
Correct.
And not changing either one.
Correct.
But validating them and not demeaning them.
I do think we need to bring back the ground rules for communication in our meetings too, so expectations are set up ahead of time.
As we're trying to do with one last comment, as we're trying to do in our neighborhood, as many of you already know, Sergeant Tighe, Randy Tighe, who is the Portland police officer that has been so helpful to our neighborhood, he phrased it really well. He says, what we're trying to do is reestablish civility in the neighborhood. And the reason your neighborhood is so upset is that civility, for various reasons, has dropped so low that everybody feels like that. So, to that end, that's what this is about. That's what electing good people to the board is about. Raising the level of civility in our neighborhood so that you're proud to come to the neighborhood association meeting. You know you're going to be respected there, that your voice will be heard. Eric. You deserve that too.
I'm not going to accept the nomination, and I probably won't come to the meeting because she reiterated, and I will do everything I can to make sure you don't, that I have to change.
No, she's not saying that to you.
She did it again.
No, she actually really didn't.
She goes, well, everyone can calm down for a little while.
No, all she said was that we were going to yeah, but I mean, this is not obviously for you. I would say this about you. This is not the first time that you've had people respond to you this way, that they're like kind of overwhelmed. So you know that up front. All she's saying is that we need to find a way so that people get to know you. She said people get to know you better.
No. Well, what did you say prior to that? Quit covering it up.
No. Well, you know what? If it's
across very, very hard.
I have felt attacked.
Until you stood back there and you talked calmly, and it was much easier to listen to you.
and we would like you to come and share yourself with us, Erica. So, have a nice evening. So, to that end, thank you everybody for coming, and I think we had a good discussion.
Is there time for them to
start it?
Is there still time for them to start food if they want it?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of time. You can still eat. Please take some with you. Please, 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 please. Barb made the hot sauce herself. The salsa is made from homegrown organic tomatoes, roasted in her own barbecue. You're like, well, yeah.
Really good. Yeah. Put on top of the little pizza thing. Very good. Hi, how are you? Who are you shooting for? Hi. Who are you shooting for? What? Who are you shooting for? Just us. Okay. You gonna put it online? That's the intention, yeah. Okay. I wasn't messing around with it to begin with, so I'm actually some good jerky stuff. My name's Andrew Wilkins. Yeah, Brian Robinson. Yes, sir. I do a I do some stuff on grant students. Yeah. So I'm doing a little piece on lecture. Okay. So if you need help getting it online or show me where it is on, I'd be happy to. I'd like to share it on something. Okay. You got I lost my wallet. Can I get your email? Yeah, it's Hullite, HULLITE @gmail.com. Okay. Where are you from? Originally from England. Oh, cool. Welcome. Yeah. Some people think that's a rude question, but I'm a curious human, and yeah, welcome. I'm happy to have everybody here. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Just send me your contacts and whenever it gets up. Because I don't handle it, I'm going to handle it for someone.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Okay. Yeah, it gets. Some people are better at some parts than others.
Well, I could do it. It's just I never been involved with it, so I'm afraid to get someone who knows how to do it with their particular website.
Yeah. Okay. And if you need me to, if somebody else wants to do it, I can definitely help you.
Okay.
Come by and get it set up. I got my system pretty well. Yeah. Do you live in Lentz? Sorry? You live in Lentz? Yeah, just up the road. Okay, cool. Just on that in a second.
Yeah, I get complicated.
But you know, when you get very people together, particularly when you get different
Style. Yeah, like, I mean, the guy's pissed, he's got simple, that's really all it is. Like, okay, you're not going to be violent, and then say that, and then hope it fixes the problem. Yeah.
And so he's got to ameliorate something in behavior. For me, directly as much good as you want to. For other people, will take the wrong way. So he's got to find a way to do it.
To future audience, like, yeah.
Is it your daughter?
Well, it's for it's like we should be filming all, not really me or kids important stuff. Anybody can have anybody can website. I mean, it's like things not everybody can be there.
Scrambling to get into it.
Yeah, you gotta be ahead of it. Yeah. Who you write for?
I'm a freelancer now.
Okay.
I wrote for a lot of technology, science.
Yeah. I've been on the project for a little while. I just think that, like, how low cost it is to publish, like, it would be hard to scratch out little advertising money out of like Montebello or Lens, you know, just like it wouldn't be a full-time thing. I mean, just enough to sort of like, you know,
It's easy. I mean, like you said, not everybody's online to it. Most people will have a phone or something, you send those text messages out or at least call people.
yeah.
You know, it's not that many people.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's just a low cost. You know, going door to door or everything is so expensive. Like, it's just, it's almost easier to, like, you know, have more libraries or more. I think that like things like the whole internet places in the neighborhood.
Right.
And it's easier to do it. It's like having stations on the internet than it would be, you know.
I've been involved with people that, you know, it's been a whole crowd full of different personalities, so I understand. There's communication, everybody feels like they have input into what's going on. You'll get a much more civil kind of discourse. Yeah, that guy there, he talks the way he does because he doesn't feel like he's going to need it.
Yeah.
And he feels like he's being demeaned or he's being shoved outside. I can understand it, and again, I think he still has to change his attitude.
Yeah. He's offended by something that happened, what, like literally a year ago. And, you know,
You can't stay offended with that kind of stuff.
yeah.
That kind of shit goes on. If you're going to get offended with that, you're going to be offended for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people can live like that.
Yeah. We're going to say how their opinions about it.
Yeah, it's going to be stupid if it's said. Some people aren't going like that. You can't expect to please everybody.
Thank you, sir. I'll be in touch with you, Alex.
Yeah, just send me your details.
Yeah, for sure.
Send me the piece when you get it done.
I will. I'll tell you what.
All right. Thank you.
For us, it's become kind of second. I can't even sleep now because it's not noisy, you know.
Well, I used to live in New York City.
I know.
But I hear.
How are you?
before.
With the amount of build, I'm working with
I just have to from Facebook, but I don't recommend giving you.
We actually, I was not on my phone, but I'd be like, I read because we made this
And they said, yeah, that's it.
When I
And now that's on what it is.
Yeah, and then just complaining about it.
So,
They started the last couple of days? Okay.
but none of them showed up. No one who was.
Yeah.
That's another, I could talk to you about.
Yeah,
That's kind of the other
Cora
spectrum.
and Rebecca mentioned a little bit, about important things being just showing up, being reliable, caring, getting things done that are on the chair to do and prepare before the meeting. So.
I think people who didn't come tonight and didn't say I can't come, I'm like Krista said, here's my thing. I think it's a little cowardly.
It's a little what?
Cowardly not to show up. If you actually think that.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, you never know what people's responsibilities or engagements, but yeah, I mean, they should make an effort.
They would have think you said, damn, that's a bad night.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna do a little piece on the election. I mean, we could talk now or later, but whichever you prefer. But what is your background? What do you want to do with the role?
Well, sorry, I'm really distracted because my kid is in
Okay,
the
watching the baby. Okay, it's like you have help.
Sorry, what, are you asking about my background or about what I want to do?
Both.
Oh, okay. I spoke a little bit about my background. I'm not sure if you want additional or...
I missed
Oh, okay,
that.
okay,
I'm
that
sorry.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So in broadcast journalism,
Okay.
and I worked in news for the media as a news producer and writer for about 8 years, and then now I work
In Portland?
all over Eugene, Portland, and San Francisco.
Cool.
And then I came back to Portland 3 years ago. And then most recently, communications director for a nonprofit corporation.
Which one?
It's called Northwest Power Pool, and they act as an intermediary between utilities up and down the coast.
Okay.
But I do mostly multimedia for them, but it does involve communication with all kinds of with people from all the utilities. And I'm an event planner for them as well, and then I'm an activist for an organization called Family Forward. So I have some experience coming from there too.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do with the role?
Well, I think there's just so many exciting things happening, a lot of growth happening in this. A lot of new people coming here. At the same time, there's people who have been here their whole lives who are not super stoked about all the change and all the new people coming. But I'm interested in this new development that is happening right now. I think it's going to be huge.
There's
I think
a
it
lot,
might be potentially very innovative for Portland, what we're trying to do. They try to do it in other neighborhoods, but I think Lentz might be it, where you have the neighborhood there, but then it might also those would be the buildings can become resources and amenities for the neighborhood too. And it's going to be interesting how that's going to affect traffic. Like I live on 92nd, it's already a busy street, but maybe it will slow things down. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the max is right there too, so it might even be just more walking traffic. I don't know.
More walking,
Hopefully.
but yeah, maybe other streets are going to become main roads too, So I'm super interested in that. Arts, but also just helping facilitate, those meetings and our association is representing our association. I think there's going to be a lot of media focus on us.
Yeah, there has been and there should be.
Yes.
Was this your first taste of the kind of of the in and out it was? Okay.
Yeah, I love Lentz group, and so I've been there from the beginning. And Cora and Rebecca, I'm just keeping an eye out, like the corner by.
Okay.
Rebecca
Feel free to
and Cora,
taste babies.
they encouraged me to run just based on some of the interactions we had there. And I'm in the Kelly Elementary group too, and getting involved with the PTA and stuff. So they told me to run. I thought it was a little crazy, but I've always said I want to be more involved. You know, anything online? Are you in any of the groups online?
Yeah, I follow the Lynch group and I follow not as closely. It's just
we all just
constantly.
kind of hide behind the computers and say a lot of things. I may have been guilty of it too, you know. But this is an opportunity for all of us to, you know, actually take action and not just talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll have you say it's just as complicated in Montebello. It's just all these neighborhood associations are having their own little. Sometimes it pops up into citywide stuff, but there's almost constant stuff like that, and I don't know how to. I feel like what I'm trying to do is small scale media to kind of like maybe be the facilitator on a larger scale, like not in the meeting but on a larger scale. So that's kind of that's what I'm doing with my project. But there's a lot of ins and outs and a lot of kind of conflict.
What's your motivation for coming to these meetings?
I live in Montebello, and I've been writing about Montebello, and I've seen a lot of stuff pop up in Lens. It's interesting, and I like the people, and I kind of want to map over what I'm doing in Montebello to Lens, like I feel like we can put a part-time reporter in every neighborhood, like a part-time reporter in every neighborhood, even if it's just covering meetings and new restaurants and like just issues like that, and maybe like with the crime focus. So that's kind of what I'm up to, building a website and like looking for funding and stuff. So yeah, I think look at on these, because this stuff is important to people who live in this neighborhood. It may not be Film City, but it's important to people who live here. So I'm kind of trying to like spotlight stuff, and I'm working on Montebello, but I feel like Lens is another really vibrant community. So I'm kind of like looking to expand in here.
Your project.
Kind of map it over.
Yeah, so would you be talking about that to the board or?
At some point. I've been doing stories here and again. And I do it's Village Portland. If you have a card, I can send you what I'm doing. But I posted on I Love Lens every week. It's just like a weekly Village Portland. If you've seen it, it's like a weekly just like events roundup. Because there's so much cool stuff going on in East Portland. So many awesome like cultural events that you're not going to find in the Lima Week because it's all places to drink and art.
I know we have like an East Portland publication, but we might not know because we don't know here, like a newsletter or something like that.
Some nonprofits do, but I don't know. But it's just a matter of where you're putting your funds. Like the dude was saying, is like a lot of the money goes into the monuments. But yeah, it's villageportland.com. If you have a card or want to give me your email, I can let you see it. Do you have?
Sure.
What was your full name? Okay.
Sabina,
Okay.
SABINA, dot, my last name you just spelled URD as a dog, ES.
URDES?
At Gmail.
Okay. Yeah, I've been posting it on the I Love Lens, like my weekly thing. So I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's weird. Facebook moves so fast. It's hard to keep up. And I think a lot of people are kind of starting to turn off Facebook. It's just too much squabbling.
But
you're in it? Yeah, me too.
I've had to turn off notifications for certain groups like I Love Lens, yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah. It does.
I still see posts. It just doesn't notify me because that was becoming too much. So they show up in my feed, and
You just don't. Yeah. It's nice. You can kind of like moderate once you get it. Yeah, you do. Nice to meet you. Thanks for stepping up. I'll be in touch.
Say whatever you want, but don't pretend. And then they were posting that there was going to be a board meeting Thursday. You know that board meeting.
And I think, Eric, what are you asking for?
See, that was the thing. My question was,
it's not even on.
And I've asked people that, and most of the time they don't know what they want.
and that's valid.
And it is valid. And I always say, well, when you figure out what you want, be sure
There's still another layer of these. There's 2 more layers. What? They're good too.
In the meantime,
It's not honest and fair.
there's when people send me emails that are like, this happened, this is awful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this is what you're saying happened, you outline it, let's take this, send it to Sergeant T. Let's send this account to Sergeant Ty, make sure you tell him your story. And then